Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Carried Away Travels. I am so excited for today's video because I have been waiting for over a month to start sharing Puerto Rico content with you guys, and life has just been crazy. But I'm here, we are finally going to do it, and I am just so pumped because this was one of the best trips we have ever had. We did so much fun stuff. It was so beautiful, and to top it all off, we didn't even technically have to leave the United States, so everything about it was just awesome. Okay, well, not everything, which is technically the point of this video. I want to share 11 things about Puerto Rico that you need to know before you go so that you can have like an awesome trip. Again, overall, absolutely amazing, but there were some things that we learned when we got there that I wasn't quite prepared for, and if I had been, I think I would have been in a better mental space to enjoy every single aspect of it. And so I want to share those things today so that you can plan your Puerto Rico trip with confidence, knowing exactly what to expect, what you need, how to prepare, and you will just have an absolutely awesome time. By the way, if this is your first time here, that is the kind of content I try to create with every video. Wherever we visit, whatever activity we do, hotel we stay at, my goal is to make sure you have all the information you need to decide if it's a good fit for you so you don't show up and get disappointed. So if that sounds like the kind of content that you want more of in your feed, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to make sure you always know when I post a new video. All right, the very first thing you should know about Puerto Rico is that while it is technically part of the US as a US territory, it really doesn't feel like it. So if you were expecting to go to Puerto Rico and have it feel like Florida, you are going to be in for a very big surprise. It is giving much more the vibe of a Latin America country like Ecuador, Costa Rica, that type of thing, because it technically is. The culture that was on the island before America got it in the Treaty of Paris is still very much alive and vibrant, and it is quite different than pretty much anything you're going to find in mainland USA outside of some very specific areas. But that was one of the things I absolutely loved about Puerto Rico was I didn't even need a passport to go experience this culture. And I mean, Puerto Rico has been around for quite a long time. So some of the buildings, like especially in San Juan, there are these beautiful like colonial buildings. There's castles. Like there's so much culture to see there that you're just not going to get anywhere else in like USA territory. It is so amazing, and they have their own food and their own traditions and festivals, nightlife, like everything is very different, and it really does feel like you stepped into a different country because you have stepped into a different culture. But again, if you're a US citizen, you can experience that without a passport. So I think this is just like a perfect taste of international travel, especially if you want to experience it, but you don't want to have to go through like customs, or maybe you don't have a passport. Like I feel like Puerto Rico is a really great place to kind of dip your toe into that. But also if you are an international traveler, you can still really enjoy it because there's just so much to see and do here. Can you tell I had an amazing time? I literally already want to go back. This was just too much fun. Number two, kind of tying into the fact that Puerto Rico feels like a different country, Spanish is a very useful tool. I was actually surprised at how many opportunities I had to use my Spanish, and in a number of places like needed it to communicate. There were many places, especially outside of San Juan, but even in San Juan, where people were apologizing because they didn't really speak English. And so thankfully, I was able to hop in and be like, oh yeah, and have at least a simple conversation in Spanish to get directions, order food, things like that. But Spanish is very much a part of their culture. And while a lot of people do speak English very well, you will find a lot of people that just don't. And so it can be very helpful to know some Spanish, or maybe have like an AI translator with you just to make sure you can communicate with people whenever you need to. With that said, I also felt like this was a really good place just to practice my Spanish. Like I have a 1,000-day Duolingo streak, but what's the point if I don't use it? So I kind of went out of my way to look for opportunities to use it. and I would walk up and ask people if I could practice my Spanish with them, and no one turned me down. And on occasion, like we did need to switch back to English, but I felt like that was a good way for me to practice. And everyone was just really friendly. A couple people thanked me for trying, even though it was probably not the best. But like if you're wanting to practice your Spanish, this is a good place because then if it doesn't work out, then, a lot of times you can switch back to English. And so it's kind of a safer environment to practice versus maybe Mexico or Ecuador, somewhere where if you don't have your Spanish, you're kind of stuck. So if you're like me, that could actually be fun. Number 3, and I cannot stress this one enough, there is more to Puerto Rico than San Juan. Now, I don't really like cities to begin with, just because they tend to be a little crowded. That is where the tourists tend to go, and I'm more of a nature girly. I want to be snorkeling or, hiking on a mountain where I get these beautiful views. But cities, especially very busy ones and older cities, can really stress me out. So I know a lot of people go to Puerto Rico and they just stay in San Juan because it's convenient and there's these, easily accessible beaches. Old Town San Juan is really pretty too. Like I get all that. But if you go to Puerto Rico, you have got to get out of San Juan because there is just so much to do and see. And while you are going to get a taste of the culture, it's going to be kind of watered down. And once you get out of the city, it is just so much more noticeable. And there's just so much to do beyond the streets of San Juan, especially if you like nature. Even if you just want to take day trips from San Juan, there is so much to do because the island is so small. It only takes a few hours to drive like the full length of it. So you can easily go from like coast to coast in one day if you want. So you can go take some hikes in El Yunque National Forest. You can go visit Ponce, which is the second largest town on the island, but has some very cool culture to check out as well. There's the islands of Vieques and Culebra, which you need to take a ferry to, but they're beautiful and they have amazing snorkeling. Like there are just so many things that you can do from San Juan if you really want to stay in there. So I definitely recommend you take at least a couple days to get out of town and go see what else the island has to offer. Number 4, if you rent a car, choose something small, like a compact vehicle. Now, we were planning on going up into the mountains and driving like all around the island. We did a Wednesday to Wednesday trip and we did a full circuit of the island and went into the interior as well. So I knew that I was going to want an SUV, but I got a compact SUV and I'm so glad I did because if you were driving around any of the cities, the roads are so small and people park on both sides of the street. And then you're going down and there's about this much space between your side view mirrors. And it can just be really, really tight, especially in San Juan. But I also saw this in Ponce. And then even going up into the mountains, a lot of the roads, I was like, this is a 1-lane road. No, it was a 2-lane. People going back and forth or passing side by side. So you really do want something small just because the infrastructure really wasn't designed for large vehicles, especially since so much of it is so old. So if you do rent a car, do yourself a favor and get something with like compact in its name. One more thing to note about San Juan is that the parking can be absolutely crazy. We had a similar problem in Ponce actually, just because the streets really aren't made for a lot of cars. So if you do like we did, and we stayed in the main part of San Juan in like a local neighborhood, we really wanted to stay with like a local Airbnb host to help support the economy versus like a chain hotel. And so we parked in a neighborhood and it's just cars lined up all along the sides of the streets. So you had to find parking there. And then if you get into Old Town San Juan, tourists are not allowed to park on the street. It is permit parking only. You have to park in one of the designated lots. And the first couple nights that we were there, we didn't have any trouble finding parking. But on our last day, we parked in this lot and went to see the castle. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to move our car to get closer to the other castle. And we spent 40 minutes trying to find a parking lot with a single open spot. There just wasn't any. And then the line to get into the lot we had been in was just up the road. Like, it was insane. So if you are going to park there, just I would say find a good spot and then don't move it the whole time. It's very walkable, but just keep in mind that it can be a little tricky to find a place to put the car once you have it. Number 6, the food is fantastic. I love visiting other countries, other cultures, seeing like the amazing dishes they come up with, and Puerto Rico did not disappoint. Now, I am very sad to admit that our first meal there was a pizza because we were starving at the airport, but after that, everything was so good. And we were able to try a lot of really authentic dishes as well as some stuff that I thought was kind of interesting with a mix from other cultures. Like, I frequently saw cordon bleu and risotto on the menu, which aren't necessarily Puerto Rican, but they would put a twist on it. But also, they just had some amazing dishes. A lot of them were fried, so keep that in mind. Our first night, we went to Juana La Loca, and our waiter was like, "Are you good with eating fried food?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" Well, half the stuff you're gonna eat there is fried, but it is so good. If you're there, you absolutely have to try mofongo and bafungo, which is a dish made from like mashed and fried plantains. And that so mofongo is usually just the one starch, and then bifungo is two starches, so they'll mix in like sweet potato or something like that, and then they'll add like pork or beef or chicken in this really thick like stew. It is so incredible. We had that several times and that was definitely our favorite thing. The street food is also just absolutely peak. Like, it is so good, and it is mostly just fried stuff like alcapurrias and empanadillas, and they're just like fried dough of some sort stuffed with different types of meat, or maybe it's more fried plantain wrapped around carne or some traditional meat, but they are so good. There's just a great variety, so no matter what you like, you can find a fritura in that category, and they're also usually pretty cheap. Like, you can get a huge thing for like $2 to $3 and you can be full. One thing I also have to just throw in here, I don't know that this was a traditional meal, but in Ponce we stopped at this food truck called Endless Papas, and we got the most amazing burrito and also the largest burrito I have ever had. The guy was like, when it comes out, each half of the burrito is going to be the size of a hamburger. And I was like, no, maybe around the size of Chipotle. It put Chipotle to shame.
Okay, hold this. Actually surprised.
The meat tornado.
This was a ginormous multi-pound burrito, and it had like plantains and beef and fresh tomato and cheese. It was just such a cool combination that I never would have put together, but this was like their top seller, what everyone loves, and I could definitely see why. So if you're in Ponce, be sure you check out Endless Papas, because that was absolutely insane. They also have like French fries, and I think you can maybe make like a bowl or a salad, but I thought the burrito was the way to go. Number 7, Puerto Rico has multiple regions and biomes to explore. So if you think of Puerto Rico, you may just be thinking kind of the San Juan beachy area, but that is just a tiny piece of what Puerto Rico has to offer. There are rainforests, there are mountains, there are different kinds of beaches. There's like classic white sandy beaches, but black sand beaches too. There are rocky beaches. There are bioluminescent bays and deserts and salt flats and caves. Like, there are just so many different areas to explore. And so if you're like a nature lover, this really is like your paradise, because in just a few minutes time, you can go from one setting to a completely different one. And again, the island is so small, like they're just all so close together. So in a week, it felt like we went to so many different places, but we were just going to different parts of the island. And that just made it so fun for us to explore, because there was just such a fantastic variety. And with that variety, there's just so many different things to do. Something I do want to touch on that I feel is very important here is the fact that colonization from mainland USA is a real problem in Puerto Rico. The government has put some different like bills and laws in place that make it easier for mainlanders to go over there and get like tax breaks and start businesses and such, which sounds good, but it is causing a lot of problems for the islanders that have been there. There's a lot of like complex political history with the whole thing. But I would just encourage you when you travel to maybe do your research, be a respectful tourist because tourism is very important for the island. But there is also a lot of back and forth. I saw this a lot in social media, like comment sections, where the real problem is the colonization. Tourism is good for the island, but a lot of people don't see a difference and it can be a little tense. So when you go, please be respectful, be a good tourist, be informed about what's going on, and go enjoy yourself and then come back home and make sure that the island can stay the beautiful, authentic place that it is. Number 9, driving is its own adventure, right? Once again, I do recommend you get a car, you get out of San Juan, you drive around, but be prepared for it to be absolutely wild. In San Juan, like I mentioned, one of the biggest things you have to deal with is just the streets being really narrow. For someone like me, that is really stressful. I do not want to feel like I'm about to hit someone else's car ever, especially when I waive the liability insurance. I would not recommend that in hindsight when you rent your car. But outside of San Juan, things are crazy too. A lot of times you'd be driving and the traffic lights didn't work. So it was like, okay, is everyone going to come to a 4-way stop? No, they are not. It is just going to be whoever had right of way originally is going to keep having right of way. In the mountains, especially, the potholes are crazy. And I mean, like, your car, you are popping a tire if you're going in that. Some of them felt like your car might disappear into it. There were some times where we were driving down at this angle, and I'm not exaggerating, and then we had to like make a right turn, and you're just hoping you don't scrape the front of the car. A lot of the roads, especially in the mountains, are absolute hairpins. You're just snaking your way through those mountains. So especially the mountains is crazy. But in the cities, there are a lot of unmarked one-way streets. And I went down at least 2 of them in the wrong direction because there were no signs. So there are a lot of opportunities to mess up. And it can get a little tense if you're a nervous driver. Not going to point any fingers. But that is an experience in and of itself. So just be cautious. I wouldn't necessarily say you even have to be like an aggressive driver in certain places with the lights. I would just emphasize caution. Take your time. Watch out for those potholes. Unmarked speed bumps are another thing. Just be ready to deal with a variety of situations, and I promise it is well worth it because you're going to get to see so much of the island, and like the beauty is worth the stress of some of the driving. Number 10, storms are no joke. Now, Puerto Rico does have like a rainy season and then the dry season, and like some places, kind of like Florida, it can rain anytime of any day. So bring a rain jacket. But something I did not realize is, especially in the forests, in the mountainous areas, it can be so dangerous for tourists because they don't understand how the rain just floods the areas. And we were chatting with a lady that we met who grew up in Puerto Rico and was back visiting from the mainland. And she told us that a lot of tourists get seriously injured or die because they're like, well, I'm not gonna let a little rain stop me. And then they go up in the mountains and these floods come down and they just sweep them away. And I'm glad she told us that because that was my mentality. I'm like, well, I'm here. I'm not going to be wimpy about it. Like, I'm not going to let rain stop me. But then we actually saw some of these storms in action. And it was very eye-opening just to see how much water rushes down from the mountains. It floods the roads. The rivers get high. So if it is raining, go someplace safe. Don't say, well, I'm going to go on an adventure anyways. You need to get like off the trails, away from the rivers. You need to get someplace safe because the storms are a lot more intense than you might assume that they would be. And so it's just, don't be that person. Number 11, Puerto Rico has the most bioluminescent bays in the entire world. There are technically 5 bio bays in the world, and 3 of them are in Puerto Rico. So if you're interested in seeing the waters light up, this is the place to be. I highly recommend it. It is very easy to find boating or kayaking tours that take you to these bays. There is one in Fajardo, and that is actually the world's only bioluminescent lagoon. We were able to take a trip out to see that, and I really wish I'd been able to get some video, but any sort of light really dims the bioluminescence, so you needed better equipment than we have. But there are also a couple bio bays that you can go visit, and so if you're there, definitely check those out. They're very popular for a reason. It's such a cool phenomenon to check out, but if you're going to like find that anywhere in the world and you're already heading to Puerto Rico, that's just something you don't want to miss. With that in mind, if you are really hoping to see the bioluminescent bays, try to go on a moonless night because the darker it is, the more the waters light up. The tour we went with, when the moon was full, they did a different type of tour. So try to plan that around the moon cycle and book in advance because those do fill up so quickly. So you don't want to wait till last minute. Make sure you book that several months in advance if possible, just to make sure you can secure your spot and you can get one for a price that you want to. And those are the top 11 things that you should know before you visit Puerto Rico. Once again, we had an amazing time, even not expecting some of these different things. But now that you know, hopefully you can plan your trip even better than we did and just go have this absolutely seamless experience that is all fun and low stress. Again, this is just such a beautiful place to explore. I'm honestly kind of mad that we didn't go visit sooner because tickets are so cheap, and we were there within like 6 hours of leaving our home airport with a layover. It is so close, especially if you're on the East Coast. It is faster than going to like California or Hawaii from the East Coast. So like it is so accessible. And again, you don't need a passport. I just think this is such an awesome place to visit. So if you're looking for a good place to check out this summer, maybe next spring, I really think Puerto Rico needs to be at the top of your list. If you have any questions on anything I talked about or something that I skipped over, please drop it down in the comment section and I will answer you as best I can. And if you have been to Puerto Rico and you're like, hey, I feel like people need to know this, please drop that down in the comments below too. Help other viewers learn other things that are going to help them have a better experience as well. If you'd like a written version of this information, I do have a full blog post on my website at cochranewriting.com. I'd encourage you to go check that out, along with all my other articles I have from different places we visited in the world and the upcoming Puerto Rico series. This is just the first of many, so be sure to check that out. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share it with your friends, and if you aren't already subscribed to Carried Away Travels, please hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you join the community. And again, make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I wish you many happy travels.